you just got a 3D pen, you may have been told that now you will be able to draw in the air. And you will be, sort of, until you decide to make a curved line. Straight line works, no problem. Downward curve is really more like a sag. Upward curve or a loop? Forget those. Gravity just won't let you. Here are 5 ways around that problem. The easiest way to make a curve is on a solid flat surface, as if you were drawing it with any other pen. Let's start with a simple cylinder. We need 2 circles for that, so we will make those on the ground and worry about getting them in the air later. I will use a spacer that is the intended height of my cylinder, and make sure the centers of the circles are aligned directly above each other. And then just bridge downwards, because that's the easiest way to bridge anyway, since you are working with gravity and not against it. Pretty simple. Now let's take this concept a step further and make multiple circles. Connect them all to the center so we can keep them aligned. Stack them up directly above each other at the appropriate distance. And as we join them, the circles themselves will make the custom curve needed to create the intended shape. Once the shape is finished, we'll just get rid of the centering lines. And we are done. The video on how to plan for this method is in the description. You don't have to settle for simple circles either. Working on a solid flat surface will support any complicated loops and scrolls you can come up with. And then we'll just bridge it all together. And once it's done, it will all be in the air anyway and look like magic. Now, we'll still work on a solid surface, but let's make it a curved one. The trick is to find a curve that is the right size for your project and at the same time can take the heat of the pen. If this was a styrofoam ball, it would melt under the pen, so watch what you draw on. The curves will have a different look this time, since all of the design happens on the surface of the ball and none inside it. This way, you can have all curves and no straight lines at all. One important note: test the surface of your intended tool first, and if the filament doesn't stick, you may consider spraying it with matte acrylic spray to improve the adhesion until the work surface works as needed. Some curved lines can be made simply by sticking a right size curve into the path of the filament. Just drape it over it and remove it the moment the plastic has solidified. You really need just 1 or 2 simple curves to get you off the ground into the 3rd dimension. And then you work further off that initial structure. Also, keep in mind you don't have to keep the whole curve you initially make. Sometimes you just need a part of it. And when you are done, you get rid of the rest. Option 4 is forming the plastic into a curve in that short time when it's still soft before it solidifies. Bridge that gap with a straight line, because that's all you can do. But then stretch it just the way you need it. This takes a bit of practice because you don't have much time. So you need to have a clear plan in mind about what you're gonna do and have your tool ready. Don't worry if you don't get it right the first time. You can retrace that line with the pen, which will resoften it and give you a second chance to get it right. You can even fix your curves one part at a time. However, there is a limit on how many times you can fix one spot, because eventually there will be too much plastic to resoften it with just a simple tracing of the pen. And when the pen is not enough, you may need a resoftening tool like a heat gun or a flame, which you may not have yet if you are just starting out. In which case you can also just snip that whole part off and start again. The ultimate shape control is working over clay support. You sculpt your shape beforehand, so it is always the right shape and size. Don't worry that the filament doesn't stick to the clay. You are not drawing on it, you are just stretching the plastic over it and attaching it to the outline. This is way more precise, especially in complex projects where there are convex and concave curves in the same shape. The clay has also some additional benefits, like supporting the shape when you do the fill. So your basic network can then be relatively loose. And when you're done, you just remove the clay and reuse it. Not all clays are suitable for this. Here's a video on which clays are more user-friendly for our purposes. But if you don't have time to watch it, start with plain old Play-Doh. Which one of these methods is right for you depends mainly on the scale of your project and what tools you have available. Here's a video with some more tips that will make your life easier if you are just starting out. And after you watch it, go and make something.